Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. Unfortunately, today, Sheikh Murtaza Mandali is not here. He normally shows us some of the breathing exercise. So Abbas is volunteered to do it for us for about 10 minutes. Abbas, please.
Assalamu alaikum. Please join everybody who wants to breathing exercise, and we'll do about of show you a bit of yoga at the end, and a bit of exercise just to move our limbs so we can refresh ourselves to get fresh lectures, which is very important. Otherwise, we will be lost in understanding the lectures or not paying more attention. Salawat. Uh, yeah. Now, those who want to stand up, they can stand up. Those who want to sit can sit. We are just doing breathing exercise. So what we start is starting with one side of nose closed with the right hand, and breathe heavily up and release the right hand to the left and breathe it out fast. Again. Now we start with the left hand, with the left side, and breathe it out on the right hand side, the same way but opposite. Now we breathe heavily inside and hold it a bit, and then breathe out from the mouth fast. We have do it only three times so that we can move on. Now, with breathing we have stopped. We are now moving our arms. No need of sitting. You can sit as well, those who can't stand up. So. Right, left, right, left. Now we just keep our hands on the hips and we just move a bit. And now on the opposite side. Okay. Now we just loosen our hand. Bring it up. Now we are going clockwise, small circle, come down a bit, make it bigger, bigger, bigger. Those who can touch the feet or right down, whatever place you can go, thumb down and go anti-clockwise, smaller circle, bigger, 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 bigger. Now we stretch it out, again this way, again that way. Now again we are going now from this side, going up a bit, round and round. Hold it there. And now we go right, stretching, keeping our hands like that. Finish. Now I'm going to do a yoga, only a little part. You can sit down. What we have to do, you can stand or sit, the same thing. What you have to see, that you have to pay attention don't think of anything. Eyes closed. When I do it like that, it means we finish. But you have to keep yourself thinking nothing but hearing what is going on around you. You can hear the sound of air or anything, movement, car, or hear what you can hear, but don't think of anything, but just keep quiet. That is yoga time. So that we don't think, but we hear exactly what is going on, because we all the time forget what is going on, but we are always in thinking. We want not to think, but to keep it quiet. Yeah. Close your eyes and think nothing, as if you are sleeping, but you are hearing. Only your ears is working. Now we keep our hand this way, just leave it loose, and just like a yoga, don't think anything, but you will hear, as I was hearing, the talking of that side. Otherwise, you would not hear and pay attention. Similarly, that way. Okay, we have finished. Now, just to loosen ourselves, we have to the back side, front side, and the knee side.
Thank you very much indeed, Abbas. Thank you, Abbas. Thank you very much indeed. I was hoping he was not say, fold your legs together, because I couldn't do that. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. We are going to start our program now. May I please request you all to say Surah Fatiha for all our Marumin. Al-Fatiha. Now request Master Ji and Aliaskar to come and recite from the Surah Quran.
It's all right. It's all right. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل لا أجد فيما أوحي إلي محرما على طاعم يطعمه إلا أن يكون ميتة أو دما مسفوحا أو لحم خنزير فإنه رجس أو فسقا أو إلا لغير الله به فمن استر غير باغ ولا عاد فإن ربك لغفور رحيم. وعلى الذين عادوا حرمنا كل ذي ظفر ومن البقر والغنم حرمنا عليهم شومهما إلا ما حملت ظهورهما أو الهوايا أو ما اختلف بعزم ذلك جزيناهم ببغيهم وإنا لصادقون. فإن كذبوك فقل ربكم ذو رحمة واسعة ولا يرد بأسه عن القوم المجرمين. سيقول الذين أشركوا لو شاء الله ما أشركنا ولا آباؤنا ولا حرمنا من شيء كذلك كذب الذين من قبلهم حتى ذاقوا بأسنا. قل هل عندكم من علم فتخرجونه لنا إن تتبعون إلا الظن وإن أنتم إلا تخرصون. قل فلله الحجة البالغة فلو شاء لهداكم أجمعين. قل هلم شهداءكم الذين يشهدون أن الله حرم هذا فإن شهدوا فلا تشهد معهم ولا تتبع أهواء الذين كذبوا بآياتنا والذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة وهم بربهم يعدلون. قل تعالوا أتلوا ما حرم ربكم عليكم ألا تشركوا به شيئا وبالوالدين إحسانا ولا تقتلوا أولادكم من إملاق نحن نرزقكم وإياهم ولا تقربوا الفواحش ما ظهر منها وما بطن ولا تقتلوا النفس التي حرم الله إلا بالحق ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تعقلون. ولا تقربوا مال اليتيم إلا بالتي هي أحسن حتى يبلغ أشده وأوفوا الكيل والميزان بالقسط لا نكلف نفسا إلا وسعها وإذا قلتم فاعدلوا ولو كان ذا قربى بعهد الله أوفوا ذلكم وصاكم به لعلكم تذكرون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد رحم الله من سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
Before I ask our guests to come here, I'd like to just inform you that COVID is coming back. It seems to be, you must have heard in the news that it is getting a bit more again, you know. So please, when you leave your homes, please try and wear a mask if possible to save all of us, yeah? So please wear a mask wherever possible. Thank you so much. We are today really honored to have Sheikh Imran from Qum to come, and he's agreed to become our guest today, our speaker. So may I please welcome him with Nari Salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad.
So I think Sayyid is just putting the presentation up.
Yes.
Yeah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيبي إله العالمين بالقاسم مصطفى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. First of all, Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullah. It's an honor to be here, invited in front of you. Thank you for offering this invitation for us. Very nice to see some familiar faces. So inshallah, with one salawat for all of our health and safety, all of our ulama, maraja, all of our friends and family, because of this resurgence of COVID, please recite a salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad ajil farajum. I don't want today to be too much of a talk as such, okay? More of a discussion. And in fact, it will be very good to get a lot of your feedback, experiences from the people here as well, based on the topic that I wish to talk about today. But before I do that, there's a reason why I've picked what would be considered now as a dry topic to talk about. Okay. Many times now we're seeing that discussions regarding ahkam and laws and fiqh are often not looked at in so much detail anymore. And that's understood. We have to develop, we've developed as a community, we have tried to understand the deen better, its philosophy, its understanding from a theological perspective, from a new, improved understanding. That's all absolutely necessary, and inshallah we continue to do that. We continue to develop, and we continue to deeply comprehend the deen. However, I have to insist here that we make sure that this is coupled with our understanding of at least ahkam. The difference between ahkam and fiqh, I'm sure, is very clear for everyone here, but just as a recap, as a summary. Take it like a factory, wholesale and retail. Okay? Retail is when you simply get the product from the shelves and you start using it straight away. Okay? I'd like you to look at our ahkam as retail. Tawdi al-Masail of Sayyid Sistani, Sayyid al-Khu'i, Sayyid Zanjani, all of the big ulama, when they write their Risalatul Amaliyya and they provide it for us, that's retail law. That we would call ahkam. That's what we have, like these Tawdi al-Masail in English or in Farsi or in Arabic, etc. But prior to your retail product, the ulama, post the ghaiba of Imam al-Hujjah, Ajalallahu ta'ala farajuhu al-Sharif, from the time of the Qudama, Shaykh al-Kulayni, Shaykh al-Saduq, Shaykh al-Mufid, and so on and so forth, all the way to Alam al-Hilli, down to Shaykh al-Murtada Ansari, Sayyid Muhsin al-Hakim, and our contemporaries, for example, like Sayyid al-Khu'i, Sayyid al-Gulpaygani, Imam al-Khumaini, Sayyid al-Sistani, etc. All of these individuals, prior to giving us the gift of Risalat al-Amaliyya, they will be entering in discussions and they will be deciphering and doing what we call istikhraj or istimbat. They will be deriving law from the Quran and Hadith. That process is called the process of fiqh. Okay? So a lot of the time when, for example, we were growing up in madrasa and we were teaching madrasa students, we would be teaching them, we would call it fiqh. Not so accurate. Rather what we should be saying, we are teaching them ahkam, ahsantum. Okay? Fiqh are the discussions that the ulama have. Now, when coming down to a community level, we have the ulama tell us, we have three main areas that we need to concentrate on when it comes to Islam. Number one, akhlaq. How we interact with one another, how we interact with ourselves, how we interact with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has to be there. Solid element of our deen comes down to akhlaqiyat. Number two, aqaid. I cannot have good akhlaq until my theological understanding, my aqaid, who Allah is, how Allah behaves, who has Allah designated as my wali, what is the akhirah like, how am I going to be responsible for my understanding, theological understanding. This is an aqaidi discussion. And the last one is ahkam. 3 A's, triple A call it. Aqaid, akhlaq and ahkam. We cannot shy away, my dear fathers of the community, from ahkam. It's not possible. If one of these A's are left, then the whole deen collapses. If akhlaq is left and we're left with just ahkam and aqaid, it becomes a deen of just, do's and don'ts and no akhlaq in it at all. Same with aqaid, same with ahkam. One of the main areas that I'm seeing more and more of a problem area when people send questions into the World Federation is the area of inheritance. Wealth and inheritance. Plenty of times when people have sent in questions, we're almost shocked at how things are being undergone in today's society, specifically in the Western society, whereby finances have become a bit more complicated. Okay, so this today is simply a summary of something that I spoke about before. It's a summary. It's not detailed, but it's just to get some ideas going and just to refresh our understanding of ahkam of wealth and inheritance. Now, some of these things may not be applicable, but let's have a discussion, and I'm open if anyone wishes to just, share their ideas or, have any questions in the midst of it. No problem at all. Can we have the next slide, please? So first and foremost is a discussion that's happening more and more pertinent to younger couples now. Okay? Before we talk about inheritance and splitting of money, etc., we need to understand how our money is divided actually. Okay? So, it's good that, are the ladies here on the other side? Okay, fine. So, something called nafaqa. Okay? It is the responsibility of the husband, of the male of the family, so the husband and the father, to provide for their wife and child. There is no responsibility from an Islamic perspective for the wife to provide anything for their children whatsoever. Not a penny is required from the wife. Alhamdulillah, I think the ladies are happy so far. They're thinking, oh, what's been going on for so many years? Okay. Now, you're probably thinking, yeah, we know this. What's the big deal? It has a serious impact when dividing money later on. Let me explain why. If a lady has been working during her life, which is now a common thing in the UK. We're seeing a lot of the times that the lady is using her money to provide for her family, okay? Where she's not responsible to do that. She's got no obligation to use her own money to do that. So for example, if she's going to Tesco or Sainsbury's and she's using her income to purchase food and groceries for the family, which is again a common thing, all of that money, either she does it out of her own will, knowingly that this isn't her responsibility, and if she does so, she's not entitled to that money back. But if she does so with the intention of, no, I'm spending this money, I'm going to buy the groceries, I'm going to, for example, pay for our holiday to go to X place, even though she's not obligated to do that, she's actually can hold that as a debt to her husband. Okay? We're talking about ahkam here. We're not talking about akhlaq here. We're talking about simply the law. Okay? What is she obligated to do? What is the male obligated to do? Okay? Now, why does that make a profound impact on inheritance? It makes an impact in this way, that if she is doing so just temporarily, and thereafter, for example, God forbid, the husband passes away, prior to his inheritance, that money has to come back to the lady. Okay? It's considered what we know as a dain, a debt. Okay? It's a dain on the husband. So prior to his inheritance being split amongst his inheritors, one of them being the wife, that money has to go back to the lady. However, if she was happy to do so, okay, and we can almost coerce our wives into saying, no, you were happy when you gave me that money, yeah? You were happy when you were purchasing these things. Then, no. Then she forgoes that, that part of her wealth, okay? We're seeing something. Can I have the next slide again, please? We're seeing this very regularly now of joint accounts. Have you guys seen this? Yeah, especially with the younger generation, we have joint accounts. A lot of the joint accounts that are between husband and wife. That's not a problem. However, it does cause an issue, like we're seeing, and unfortunately I have to raise these topics in front of you, but we're seeing a lot of cases of divorce whereby when it comes to splitting the money now, there's a sort of a discussion. Whose money was that? You know, there's a joint account. Is it supposed to be split half and half? How do we separate that money? Okay, so when we have a joint account, again, if it comes to, for example, a husband and wife having cash in the account, and it comes to either for example, a split, or one of the people passes away, first we have to know whose money in that account actually belongs to. Okay, as we said, everything that the wife earns, either through working or, for example, through her own inheritance, for example, that she's inherited from her father and mother, that's her own money. It's got nothing to do with the husband. That has to be put away separately. Okay? Or, for example, cash from the income of a husband. Let's say that a wife is at home and the husband is out working and they put it in a joint account. Islamically speaking, does that wife, is she entitled to any part of that money as her own money? No, she's not. That's the husband's money. Yes, she's entitled to her nafaqa, which is her daily bread and butter and feeding and clothing and housing and all that stuff. But it's not her money. She's entitled to use that money as a nafaqa, but it's not considered her property. Is that clear so far? Yeah? Or, for example, her dowry, okay? A dowry from before, etc. When the husband marries that wife and gives that dowry to the wife, she's not obligated to use that money in her marriage or, for example, in feeding her children, etc. That's her money. That has to be separated, okay? Or, for example, that we have like pensions now as well, right? Is it the case that when someone has a pension, it's the opposite person's right to that money? In the British law right now, if someone passes away and they have a pension, that money is split. That money is given to the wife, for example, based on if there's no will left behind. It's like an automated by default, it goes to the wife. No, it's not necessarily the case. We have to look at the ahkam involved here. So it's very important. When we have our finances, we need to know who owns what, and we need to know who's entitled to what as well. Very important. Okay, can I have the next slide? But yeah, can we?
The pension side,
Mhm.
when the man passes away,
Mhm.
the wife automatically gets the pension, not, I'm talking of the state pension,
Yeah.
but from the
Private equity, yeah.
Isn't the wife now entitled to 1/4 or 1/8
Correct. So we'll come to that in just a moment, how that pension needs to be split and given to the wife, yeah? So I've put in here in abbreviation CETV. If you go back to the previous slide, CETV is a terminology used in private pensions. Anyone an expert here in private pensions or pensions in general, finance sector? So CETV is normally like what we call an accumulative value of how much your pension pot is. Okay, so for example, you'll have a CETV of £200,000, £150,000. Okay, you get that from your pension company, and they give you an overall amount of that pension, its value, its worth. Then afterwards, it has to be given 1/8 to the wife.
No, sorry. I'm not talking of the lump sum that you get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? For example, where I used to work,
Mm-hmm.
my pension is quite good. And when I pass over,
Mm-hmm.
the company is still continuing to pay my wife
Mm-hmm.
the amount, be slightly less.
Sure.
Now, what's the ahkam on
So she's entitled, we'll come to that, but she's entitled only 1/8 of those installments. Okay? The rest of it would go to your other inheritors. But what I was suggesting is what we can do in a different way is we get a understanding of that lump sum. Let's say, for example, your lump sum is £5 million. Okay? That lump sum, £5 million of that pension, your inheritors, for example, your children, okay, or your parents, they would be entitled to an amount and your wife will be entitled to it. If that person, one of those people of your inheritors, wishes for that money in one go, you would take a lump sum of value and you'd give 1/8 of that to your wife, like that. If, for example, all inheritors are happy to have it as trickling installments, for example, for tax purposes, then each person needs to get 1/8, 1/6, 1/2, or whatever the case may be. Yeah? Is that okay? Okay. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, so we can do that. Yeah, we can do that. So that's probably towards the end of the slides. I'll do ishara. So did everyone understand the question? Yeah. Can we have an understanding from before that this is what's going to happen? Yes, you can, but in certain conditions only. So all inheritors have to be on board, etc. But we can talk about that in just a moment. Yeah. Okay. We'll go to the next slide. Sure.
Usually when the lump sum comes in,
Mm-hmm.
you pay off the mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
So that is on the go or on the inheritance. So how does that work?
So again, it depends who that mortgage is indebted to. If that mortgage is a debt of the husband, we'll go through it in just now how to go stage by stage. First, all of his debts need to be paid for before inheritance is split. So if, for example, that mortgage is let's say I have a mortgage of £100,000 and I've got a complete equity of £200,000 as my inheritance. Prior to that £200,000 from being split apart between my inheritors, my debt needs to be paid off. So 100,000 goes, I'm left with 100k. That 100k now needs to be split as inheritance. We'll go through it in just a moment, the actual stages of how someone's wealth needs to be divided prior to inheritance. Very good question, Hassan. Okay. When we're looking at inheritance, you'll see a lot of the time in the ahkam books that every single person is entitled to how many? 1/3 of their complete property. Okay? 1/3 of your complete property is up to you, whatever you want to do with it. Okay? You can give it to whoever you want, you can give it to whichever charity you want. I'm seeing sometimes in England now they're giving it to pets. I'm not sure, what world we're living in now that we're giving money and wealth to animals where there's people hungry or family members that may be hungry or use it later on. I'm not here to go through that. But 1/3 you're entitled to give it to whoever you wish, to whichever institute you wish. That 2/3 though, it's an interesting way that the ulama describe it. 2/3 of your inheritance, of your complete equity, is a haqq on your inheritors. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is your inheritors, whether they like it or not, whether you like it or not, whether the state likes it or not, according to the law of Allah, those inheritors they have a haqq to that money. Okay? They own that money by default. The moment that person passes away, they own that money by default. This is the law of Allah. Okay? Whether, for example, that son is on that side of the globe, or the daughter is on this side, she's married, she's very wealthy, she doesn't need money. No, the law of Allah states from the moment that this person passes away, that money is owned by that person. It's their haqq. Okay, what they choose to do after they get that money, for example, someone said, can they give that money, for example, back? I'll give you a real life scenario. Okay, a husband passed away a few years ago, but the mother didn't have so much wealth. She wasn't working, or she, for example, moved country. Okay, the children decided that the wealth that our father left behind, we'll give it back to our mother. No problem. It's their haqq to do that. They can do whatever they want with it, but no one can force them. On inheritance, you don't get any money, it goes straight to the mother. No. When the person passes away, if the children decide to give it back to the mother, then so be it. Okay, is that clear? But this is a haqq of those inheritors. Yeah, it's a very important point. It's their, what you call their ownership by default. You go to the next slide. Okay, so this comes back to the question of the uncle over here. Prior to division of your inheritance, there are a few stages that you need to go through, okay? When a person passes away, the first thing that they need to do is that year that they passed away, or that year's amount of khums needs to be paid, okay? So the inheritors, either wife or the children, they first take whatever they know to be of that year's non-khums paid money, they need to go and pay khums on it straight away, okay? Sure. So if the deceased has never paid khums, there's two ways of looking at it. Number one, that they didn't believe it was important to pay khums. They weren't people of khums, they weren't people of the law of Allah. Sayyid Sistani says in that case, the inheritors don't need to pay khums. They don't need to pay khums. If, for example, the deceased was what we call in Arabic, la ubali. Do we have that in Swahili? La ubali. They didn't pay any attention. They weren't bothered about khums. Who cares about khums? What? Abajali, okay, yeah, this sounds like la ubali. La ubali in Arabic, he doesn't care about khums. Then the inheritors don't need to pay khums on that money. However, I should say it has three ways of looking at it. One, the person didn't care about khums, they don't need to pay khums on the money. Two, they left in their will that 1/3. When we say will, we're only talking about 1/3 here. But they left in their will an indication that this is the amount of khums I need to be paid, or please pay my khums using this money here. Then they need to pay khums on that money. The third one is that, no, they were people of khums. They did used to pay khums, but this year they haven't paid their khums. The inheritors need to go and pay their khums there. Does that make sense?
To verify,
Mm-hmm.
I've come across his,
Sure.
he's never paid khums, but in his will,
Mm-hmm.
he says, okay,
This is how much I need to pay.
pay khums,
Yeah.
my namaz, namaz.
Yeah.
How do I work out of it?
Okay, so here you have to go back and look at all previous finances. It becomes a very messy thing to do. You have to look at previous finances. What property of his was part of his everyday living? For example, his house that he used to live in, there's no khums on paying that. What cash value did he have? And you always go on how much certainty you have. How certain am I of this amount of wealth of his being wealth that he didn't need, but he needed to pay khums on? You have to then ask the family members, etc., and get as much information as possible. If, for example, he says you have to pay this much amount of qadha, salah, and qadha, roza, then you need to go and find out how much each one is. You have to ask people how much, for example, 1 year of salah is. I just had someone from the community just last year. They asked for this very thing. Can you find someone who can pray 10 years of salah and 10 years of fasting? Okay, all needs to be worked out. That needs to be paid off prior to the inheritance being done. On what condition? On the condition that he has either asked you or he hasn't asked you, but he was someone who used to pray salah, someone who used to fast. If someone, for example, didn't pray or fast or anything else and they were not involved in the deen at all, then the inheritors have no responsibility according to Sayyid Sistani.
Okay, so the way I approach it,
Mm-hmm.
you can correct me please.
Sure.
I've not done the distribution.
Sure.
What I did was, I paid off all the qaza. The family agreed so many months or no qaza,
Mhm.
roza, namaz. I'm left with the residue now.
Mm-hmm.
For distribution.
for distribution.
And I'm saying that now whatever is left now, he has never paid khums, so now that is his savings. 20% of that goes.
Did he used to pay khums before?
Never.
Never. There's no obligation for you to pay khums on his behalf on that residue. If it's in the will, that's a different story. If he's left it in the will that this needs to be paid khums on, you have to pay khums on it. Have to, yes, yeah. No doubt about it. If he's stipulated in the will, it must be done. It must be executed. Yeah? Okay.
I've got one question if you don't mind.
Sure.
If I give somebody during my lifetime
Sure.
to my grandchildren,
Mhm.
and I've paid khums on that money,
Mhm.
are they supposed to pay khums on that money as well?
They are supposed to pay khums on that money. Even though you've paid khums on that money, they are supposed to pay khums on that money if they haven't used it by the year end.
Thank you.
Yeah? So there was a previous ulama, they used to say, if I've got money, £100, and I pay khums, I'm left with £80, and I give that £80 to you. Some ulama say this money itself, because it's khums paid, I don't need to pay khums on it. But Sayyid Sistani says no. That money, I give you £80, I pay £20 khums, I give you £80 as a gift. That money is what we call new money, according to the uncle, is new money for him. For him, it's a new form of income. And therefore, for him, he needs to pay khums on that money if he doesn't use it by his khums year end. Does that make sense? Yeah?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so for that current year, his khums needs to be paid, number one. Number two, the expenses of burial of the deceased. For example, the land, for example, the kafan, dafan, everything. Okay? Now that needs to be done. Now, I don't know how that works with the burial committee here. I've been away for a long time. I know that we do have a burial committee here in Stanmore. So you would have to see how that works with this, okay? Number three, debts owned to other people, okay? I'm hearing more and more stories nowadays. I'm not sure what's going on. Not just Stanmore, but other communities as well. People are indebted to others, but they haven't paid their debts back. And they know that they owe people, but then we're still not doing it. Yeah? I don't know where this before, I mean, such a thing, I think in your generation, even in our generation, I don't think it would be like what we call in Arabic an aib. It would be like a very bad thing on us that we're indebted to people, but we haven't paid that back. We must pay our debts back. If it's too late and the person passes away, the debt has to be paid before inheritance is split. Number four, Hajj. If, for example, that person had enough money to go for Hajj and he was what we call mustati, yarhamukumullah, and that person didn't go for Hajj, part of that money before inheritance has to be paid for someone to go and do his niyaba or her niyaba. Okay? If someone is still alive and they have the money to go for Hajj, but they can't physically go, they're unwell, etc., then Sayyid Sistani says that they have to pay someone to do a niyaba whilst it's still alive. These are common ahkam that, for example, maybe just needs refreshing. Okay, so someone has the money, but physically they can't go. Sayyid Sistani says that you're still mustati, but you have to give a na'ib, someone to go and do your niyaba for Hajj. Of course, now, and this is being recorded, but now it's become a lottery to go to Hajj. Yeah, mashallah, everything has become so well organized, so much, everything done for us. It's become a lottery to go and visit Allah's house. Allahu Akbar. Number five. What's the difference between number one and number five? Number one was that year that person passes away, his khums needs to be paid. But number five is in relation to previous years of khums. Okay? But again, that's if that person was someone who either wanted your khums to be paid, or he used to be someone who used to pay khums, he used to give it importance, it's just that a few years have passed and he hasn't done it. Okay? So that's the difference between 1 and 5.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
With the current situation of Saudi regulation,
Mm-hmm.
and causing a lot of problems to us, so the second of pregnancies is a useless thing done.
Mm-hmm.
How can we, how would we apply this going to Hajj for the people? Because
You mean from an ahkam perspective? So if someone is mustati, they have the money, they have the wealth, they have the health to go, they have to register with this fantastic new system. Okay? They have to register with this system whether they want to go as an individual to Hajj as a Western pilgrim or not. They must. It's what we call muqaddamatul wajib wajibun. The preliminary, the prerequisite for doing your wajibat itself is wajib. For example, if in the Agaw times that there wasn't this any motive system, okay, we were going with, for example, the previous co-age or Assalamu alaikum, other Hajj people. For me, if I have the health and the wealth, I have to go and give my money to a group to attain my visa. Attaining my visa becomes wajib for me. Purchasing my ticket to go on a plane becomes wajib for me. I don't know, purchasing, for example, or renewing my passport for me to go for Hajj becomes wajib for me. In the same way, for me to register on this system becomes wajib for me to do that. Even if I don't get a chance to go, I have to register on that system. If, for example, with this gambling methodology of lottery of visiting Allah's house, I get chosen, fantastic. If I don't get chosen, I've done what my responsibility was according to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If, for example, next year, if I didn't get a chance to go, and next year I can re-register, I have to wajiban re-register again. However, if, for example, next year I re-register, but the price becomes double, and I don't have the money to do that, I'm not mustati anymore. I don't need to register because I don't have the money to do it. But at that moment in time, if I have the money, if I have the health, wealth, I have to register with this system until it is eliminated. Inshallah. Yep.
The law of Islamic is different to the law of
Yeah, we'll come to that in a second. Yeah, we'll come to that. Unfortunately, though, I won't have the slide, but I've got the HMRC website on my computer right now. And inshallah, I'll read through it. Unfortunately, I didn't bring on the slide. So, thank you for raising that, yeah? So I've got all of this wealth, equity. I've done stage 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I need to look at...
Somebody online is asking me
Sure.
to ask you this question.
No problem at all. Assalamu alaikum to Sheikh Murtada Bandali. Can we have a salawat for his health? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali. Do I pay khums after or before distributing inheritance to my children during my lifetime? And can I disperse inheritance in equal percentage to all my children, male and female? Thank you. So no, inheritance cannot happen before death. Inheritance is something stipulated by Allah after death. If we're distributing wealth before one passes away, this is called hibah. This is a gift to our people. Okay? Hibah can be either when someone is terminally ill, God forbid, that has its own ahkam. But if we're healthy and we're in good spirits and we're distributing wealth, we can gift that to people. Yes, no problem. But we have to be very careful. If your gifts are very extravagant, that entitles you to pay khums on those gifts. Okay, so I don't want to complicate the matter. But for example, if I'm a millionaire and I want to equally distribute my wealth prior, can we just get the question up one more time, please? If I want to distribute my pot of wealth before I pass away, if I'm going to be gifting each child £1 million, I think we would all safely say that gifting such amount of money is a little bit outside the normal gift of what parents give to their children. I know maybe in our community, alhamdulillah, we're a philanthropist community, it might not be such a big deal to give £1 million as a gift to a child. We have to just look at it from our own social status. So yes, we can give gifts to our children or to anyone that we want to give, as long as it's within the normal like social status type of gift. Okay. However, inheritance, when we talk about inheritance, we have to talk about inheritance post-death. So this such a thing is called not inheritance. He had a further question about khums. Do I pay my khums prior to that or post that? No. Giving a gift to someone is a deductible income in khums. Okay? So I don't need to pay khums and then give from my khums money. If I want to gift someone some money, for example, birthday gift, or because, you know, they've helped me do something and I want to gift them, that is considered a deductible income. And so I can gift that money and then I can pay khums after that. That's not a problem at all. Okay? Have I answered all the questions? Yeah? Okay, yeah, perfect. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once I've done all the debt clearing, paying the khums, putting hajj, kafan, dafan, all of this stuff, and ghusl, everything, I've purchased the land, I've paid khums on the previous properties, etc. I still have to do one last thing before I start distributing my inheritance, and that is I need to look, did person X leave in his will something about that 1/3? If he did, I need to distribute that 1/3 before I go to the inheritors. Okay? So for example, he said 1/3 I want to distribute to Hujjat Harefield. Okay? Before I split my inheritance, 1/3 goes to Hujjat Harefield. Okay? Or 1/3 goes to, for example, the Senior Citizens Committee for the next 10 years. I don't know. Okay? Hujjat Stanmore. Okay? Once that 1/3 is cleared, I'm left with 2/3 of his pot left now. Now those 2/3 of that pot is left, now I can start distributing his inheritance. If he has a wife, if he has a mother, if he has children, if he has no children, what do? That all that ahkam comes now. Okay? Question, if he didn't leave a will and something to do with that 1/3, what do we do now? That 1/3, it gets put back in. We now have 3/3. All 3/3 are distributed in his inheritance. That goes back into the pot. Okay? Can we have the next slide, please? Okay. Let me bring up a real life scenario of someone that asked World Federation a question that we had written a reply for. Okay?
Can it will ask brothers, sisters, entitled to homes if the wife and children are there?
Inheritance or khums?
Homes. No,
Inheritance. So we have in ahkam what we call tabaqat. Okay? And it's basically layers of people that inherit. So the ahkam of Allah is such that if your parents are alive, your spouse is alive, and your children are alive, then all of your inheritance goes to these group of people first before anyone else. Okay? If none of these people in this category are alive, then it starts branching out to the second tabaqa, which includes brothers and sisters. So, as long as the parents, the spouse, or the children are alive, only those people inherit. Okay? Before brothers and sisters inherit. Is that clear? Yeah? Okay. All these have got percentages. No, the brothers and sisters are not entitled to anything if the parents, wife or spouse, and children are alive. The only time brothers and sisters get to inherit is when the parents, children, or spouse are not alive.
To make it even more clear,
Yeah.
let's say the parents have passed away, and now you've got the wife and the children. So the percentage would now go to them first, not including the siblings.
Siblings don't get anything. They don't get anything at all. Until unless that spouse and the child also pass away, the brothers and sisters don't get anything at all. Okay? So unfortunately, this is a real life scenario of something that's happening right now. Okay, someone asked me a question. I gave the answer to this question. Suddenly, the brothers of this huge pot of money wish to have an entitlement to the inheritance. It's not the case. If the wife and the children are alive, there is no haqq on that person to take that money. Grandchildren is different. It depends. The grandchildren, if the parents, i.e. the parent of that grandchild, is not alive, that has its own ahkam, okay? But if the grandchildren are alive and their parents are alive, the grandchildren don't get any money at all. Okay? So let's take an example. Let's say Sheikh Ja'far has a lovely daughter soon, okay? Because Sheikh Ja'far is around, his good daughter, inshallah, will not have the right for inheritance. Why? Because Sheikh Ja'far will be in authority of that money, and he will need to do whatever he needs to do.
In other case, that I, as a grandfather, my granddaughter Ja'far's daughter is not entitled to anything.
From an inheritance perspective, no. Is that clear for everyone? Yeah? Yeah, very important. But unfortunately, ahkam is not spoken about anymore, which is a big issue. Real life scenario. Okay, let's say we have, how long do we have?
Up to
12:40. Okay, I'll try and speed up. Okay. Now, it gets a bit complicated when you want to start breaking down your inheritance. Okay. Why does it get complicated? Because we have two types of property when it comes to inheritance. We have immovable property and movable property. Okay. What do I mean by immovable property? Immovable property are of two types. So we're clear so far? We have immovable property, movable property. Immovable property, again, is of two types: land and buildings. Okay? When it comes to the immovable property and land, the wives of the husband don't inherit from the land at all. From the land. Okay? They don't inherit from the land at all. All of the inheritance goes to the children. I'm just giving a normal, like typical scenario, otherwise it will get, a little bit complicated. So if the husband passes away, there is land, there is building, the wife doesn't get anything of the land as an inheritance, neither cash value nor the land itself. Okay? However, the buildings and the trees of that land, she doesn't inherit the building or the trees. She inherits the value of the building and the tree at 1/8. Okay? So let's push some numbers together. Okay? Let's say we have a land in Stanmore. The land has got a building on it. What we need to do first is get a surveyor in and value the property separately. How much does this land worth and how much is the building worth on the land? Surveyors do this, especially in the West. They are very good at doing that. They're more than capable of doing such a thing. So if we had a land in Stanmore, the whole property cash value was £1 million. Okay, let's say. The land is 300,000. The rest of the property, the building and contents, all that stuff is 700,000. Okay, and in fact, scrap contents, just say building, 700,000, land, 300,000. The wife doesn't inherit anything from the 300,000. That goes all to the children, okay? Or to the parents if they're still alive. The £700,000, the value of the building, the wife inherits from the value of 1/8 of that 700,000. Clear? 700,000 was the value of the building. She inherits 1/8 of that 700,000. But she doesn't inherit the building itself. Unless there is a cooperation between the inheritors that they are happy for her to inherit the building as well. But as a primary rule, she inherits 1/8 of that 700,000. Is that clear so far? Yeah? Okay. How about the grounded objects then? The grounded objects like the buildings, the trees, everything else, the children inherit as a full inheritance. So the 7/8 of whatever is left over goes to the children. Okay? Very clear. Let's go to the next slide. We have movable property. Okay? And this picture on the right-hand side is especially for our Khoja community because we've got billions of dollars. Okay? Alhamdulillah. Here, the wife, the children, the parents. This is what we call movable property now. Okay? So that involves your pensions, that involves your cash flow, that involves your cars, and I've put the phones that you and I were familiar with, yeah? Even though, like, for example, I grew up with such Nokia phones and Sony Ericsson phones when they first came out. So you and me are in the same boat here, okay? I'm feeling what you're feeling when it comes to computing and this kind of stuff. These are the phones that I grew up with, okay? Where we had buttons and aerials. So anything that's left over in the house, any movable property, now the wife is included and everything is split. How do we split it? We have the same fractions. So for example, if the parents are alive, they get 1/6 of everything. Okay, the father and the mother. Typical scenario. If the wife is alive, she gets 1/8. Now, some people would say, okay, the philosophy behind inheritance is sometimes questioned. When you work out what actually happens, it's actually in favor of the wife and in favor of the parents. Why? Once we've got that pot and it's ready to be divided, the first person to get that part of inheritance is the wife and the parents. Okay? So, prior to the children getting their hands on any type of inheritance, the amount for the parents has to be separated and the amount of the wife has to be separated. It has to be given to them first. So if, for example, the parents are not alive, it's just husband, wife, and children, 1/8 of this movable property and 1/8 of the building value first has to be given to the wife. She is a priority person to gain that inheritance. Once that's given to the wife, now we can start dividing the inheritance for the children. Is that clear? Yeah? So let's say, for example, you have £5 million in the account, pensions, all that stuff, everything put together, the amount of cars, phones, everything. First 1/8 goes to the wife, first of all. Then the children start to inherit. Okay? I think one thing that is quite clear, because we're running out of time, one thing that we have to do practically is get our finances in order. It's a really, really important thing. Inshallah, Allah gives all of you a long, healthy life, but even myself included, young people are not excluded. We need to know what our accounts are, how much khums we have to pay, how much we haven't paid, what is where, who's got this account, document everything. It's practically very important that we use our time to get our wealth and our accounts in order so that it doesn't create the type of problems that we're seeing in the community later on, that there's infighting, etc. Okay? And it also means that we need help. We need help in splitting our finances. We need help in doing it accordingly to the way our maraja have asked us to do it. Okay? The next slide is something that can help us with our inheritance. Okay? One of our fellow seminaries in the city of Qom, Sheikh Tahir Ja'far, he has set up a computerized system where you plug in your figures and your values, and it helps you generate your inheritance split between your inheritors. Okay? So things are becoming easier now. We just need to know where to go and what to type in. However, you can only plug in those values and those inheritance values if you know what your inheritance is. So again, it comes back down to first figuring out what is our inheritance part, getting everything in order, etc., and then going down the split route. It also requires you to know all of those deductions that need to happen prior to your inheritance being split. Okay? Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi of Canada has also done a fantastic work in breaking down everything in more detail, for example. And also here, I don't have this because it's not linked to the screen, but if I'm not mistaken, World Federation have also done a percentage breakdown of each person and the different permutations that would come about. Let me just open this up for you. Recite the salawat, please. Yes, yeah, very good book. In the meantime, can we go to the final slide? I've got one small slide here of how UK inheritance tax works. So, yes, it's the World Federation, and I think it's the India Federation that have done this for us. Okay, so the inheritance summary is something like this, where it breaks down each person in the family's permutations and gives you a percentage of how much that person is entitled to. Okay? And if you guys want that, we can send the link for that later on. Okay? Now, a very important thing is how inheritance tax here works in the UK. Okay? Because breaking your inheritance down from an Islamic point of view, you get hammered tax-wise, right? Inheritance tax will hammer you. So what we need to do is, according to the British law, we need to execute our inheritance to the best possible way to reduce the amount of tax that we need to pay. Okay? And the British government allows you certain remedies, or it allows certain discounts. For example, if you were to leave the majority of the pot to the wife, if, for example, that it's the family marital home, then there's a higher threshold of tax to be paid, etc. All of these things need to be taken into consideration. Now, is there a way of amalgamating these two together? I think there is. Okay, when I looked into it last, you require a very loyal wife to thereafter break down the inheritance from an Islamic perspective. But if we do things according to the law here, we can leave the majority of it to the wife, and thereafter we can ask her, or we can request her to do it, execute it in an Islamic way. Okay? So these things need to be amalgamated, but they need to be spoken about in a bit more of a private setting, etc. And then we can help and fuse these two things together. A lot of the rules are on the gov.uk website. Again, my computer's not connected here, but the gov.uk website, it goes into talking about different types of reliefs and inheritance tax and how it's reduced from 36% downwards, etc. We could have gone through this, but for a lack of time, I would ask you guys to go and look at this yourself, and then inshallah, if there's any questions, maybe we can help fuse these things together. What I'm going to do, there's a few minutes left. If anyone has any questions, because I know a lot of numbers were spoken about, etc., then we can tackle any questions if we know the answer. Yeah?
Sorry, can I just ask one question?
Sure.
It doesn't involve us here, but if you have more than one wife,
Yes.
what is the inheritance for them?
So I don't get involved in politics.
Oh, sorry.
Alhamdulillah. Okay. So are we allowed to talk about politics in Hujjat Stanmore or no? Politics is normally not allowed to be spoken about. This type of politics, just for your sake, I'll get involved. 1/8 per wife. Okay, 1/8 per wife. Okay, let me share a story with you. Someone was, I think if I'm not mistaken, it was in the time of Sheikh al-Mufid, whereby they were talking about inheritance of the wives of the Prophet, whereby he said that, it was the right of Imam al-Mujtaba salawatullah wa salamu alayhi to be buried with the Holy Prophet, and they stood against that, etc. And they said, no, that's why the wife is buried. He said, no, the wife gets 1/8, and Rasulullah had 9 wives. So one of the wives of the Prophet is only entitled to 1/72 of that inheritance. So move that aside. Each wife is entitled to 1/8. So it will be 1/8 times 1/8 times 1. So it's a factorial that would have to be worked out. Yeah.
Brother, they had a question. Sorry, I interrupted.
Assalamu alaikum.
The problem is that in UK, before you do anything else, you have to save your money from the tax man.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, you have to have a competent accountant.
Mm-hmm.
And the accountant must know how the private trusts work. I've just recently set up a trust,
Mm-hmm.
although I'm not very happy with it.
Okay.
But this is a way of saving money when you pass away.
Mhm.
Your children will be given the remainder of the money. So if you know anybody who's really good at private trust, then please let me know as well and consult him as well.
Can you just share how does this trust work?
The trust work, UK allows certain amount of money to be put in a pot
Correct.
for your family
Mm-hmm.
every 6 years.
Yep.
So if I got say 5 million, I put 1 million now, and then wait 6 years. If I'm alive, I put another million in that.
Mm-hmm.
That money is untouched by UK taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, supposing I last all that time and that 5 million is transferred in that account,
I think they give 7 years. Is that right?
every 7 years I
Yeah.
give that, 6 years, 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one way of doing it.
Correct.
There are better ways of doing it, but
Sure.
the banana.
So as long as that, let's say we execute that type of methodology, which is great because we're avoiding paying extra tax, okay? Thereafter, when that pot comes about, as long as people know amongst the inheritors what the pot is, they can divide that themselves.
Yeah, that's
Yeah?
You have to set up the will, how the money is going to be divided
Yeah.
on top of this.
So this is one thing I want everyone to take home today. I'm glad you said that word. I want everyone to take this home today. Set up a will. What does that mean now? Setting up a will, according to Islam, is talking about what type of inheritance? That 1/3, where you have jurisdiction over it. You have your own choice over it. The 2/3, there's no point for a will. It's a very important point. The 2/3 is a default standard methodology according to Islam. When you say I want to set up a will, it's very good that you said that. Setting up a will is for your 1/3. 2/3, you have no authority over it whatsoever. Allah tells us what to do with the 2/3. Very important, okay? However, Once that person passes away, and that inheritance is now broken down to their respective people, if they wish to now push the money around, give it back to this person, not take it at all, that's their jurisdiction. Does that make sense? Yeah? So making a will is for your 1/3. 2/3 of it, you have no jurisdiction on it whatsoever. Clear?
Sir,
Yeah.
what about wife and husband make a will together?
Mm-hmm.
Then what happens to that form?
It depends. That will that they make together, what is it they're making a will on? Whose money is it? Has it been separated? Do we know whose wealth, whose pot is it? Who does it belong to?
They say that after they part,
Mm-hmm.
first they say that it should go to one of the partners,
Mm-hmm.
wife or husband. And then they say that the rest of it, after paying all the dues or creditors, it should be divided among the children, sisters, and brothers to be divided together. I mean, all
Equally, you mean? Okay. So that is definitely in contradiction to what Islam tells us to do. So we would need to first figure out for ourselves what is the law, ahkam-wise, and try as best as we can to match that with how we're going to be breaking down. However, if I was to say, I'm going to put a will and I'm going to give all my children equal, this is in contrary to what Islam is asking us to do. In spite of it seeming good for us and looking better for us, no, this is in contrary to what is happening.
But if it is known sometimes that the wife go to their husband or others, if they divide the money, then their income later on to the wife, and the wife wants to keep all the children together, better to do it to be divided after they have gone, she has gone, or he has gone.
So if there is what we call a gift from the husband to the wife, that this money is now yours, or for example, X amount of money, as long as it's not outside of his social status and he gifts that money prior to his death, she can take that money as a gift for her, okay? That money is given, but not as inheritance. We can't stipulate that this is going to be inherited by you by this amount. That inheritance is a default package. What we can do, if they really want to do that, is that the children inherit the way Islam tells us to inherit it, and they give that money back to their mother, for example. See, look at the system of Allah. We have one more question I will ask. The system of Allah is very, very accurate. Okay? We would say, if that lady is left alone after her husband passes away, who's going to take care of her, right? So better that she gets majority of the money. Islam says, give the money to the sons are obligated to take care of the mother now. Look at the difference. The lady would be left alone with a big pot of money, or the sons get the money and the sons are now obligated to take care of their mother. It's very different. Or for example, if that lady is young enough, it's encouraging her to what? Get remarried. The system is taking into consideration all different permutations. Yeah, it's a very important way to looking at it. So it would be in contradiction to the way Islam wants us to do it. If we want to benefit the mother, we have to do it in a different way, where Islam gives us that pathway to do it. There are pathways, it just needs to be done in a different methodology. Yeah?
I'll take one more question. No, sorry,
If I get
just
any
one more
money
question. Yeah, I'm back.
from my son, say for instance, my son has sent me 500 pounds,
Inshallah, 500,000.
whatever you like. Am I supposed to pay a khums on that the moment I get the money?
When is your khums date? Has your khums date come on that day?
No, not yet.
You are entitled to use that money and spend it as you wish, as long as it's in the halal way. Use your money, spend it as you wish. If all that money is gone by the time your khums date comes, you don't have to pay khums on it.
So any kind of gift that I get
Mm-hmm.
before my date of khums,
Yeah,
I can use it without paying any khums.
correct. Sayyid Sistani or Sayyid Khui? Sayyid Khui. That's a different story. Good job I asked. For Sayyid Khui, I will have to check. Sayyid Sistani is stricter. Sayyid Sistani says, any type of gift that is given to me, it's entitled to khums. I have to check, is Sayyid Khui of the same opinion or not? Please allow me to check. In the meantime, by namaz time, I'll get you an answer, inshallah.
I was follower of Sayyid Sistani.
Yes,
I get the 500 pounds from my son.
yes.
Before I spend it, I have to pay.
No. In fact, it's the other way around. If, for example, it's about gifts. So Sayyid Sistani says, on gifts, you also have to pay khums if you have left over with that gift on your khums date. Sayyid Khui, maybe, I'm not sure, it could be the case where he says, if it's gift money, even if your khums date comes, you don't need to pay khums on it. That I need to check. Okay? But if it's Sayyid Sistani, if you use it by the time your khums date comes, you don't need to pay khums because it doesn't exist. If there's money left over, you need to pay khums on it. Okay?
Thank you so much indeed. I'm sorry I can't take any more questions because the time is getting on. And then, just like to thank
No problem. No, please.
here for coming
No
to
problem.
our
Ahsan
Thank you so much.
No
indeed.
problem. No, I'm
Thank you.
yourself. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على. Let's just end with dua al-faraj. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. صلوا على محمد. Should I turn this off? Okay.
Request Master T for Surah Yasin for us. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاء المرسلون إذ أرسلنا عليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب عليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة أن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم اسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كما أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محذرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملت أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلك منه النار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنؤتم لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى عليهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مركزنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في سؤل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال من على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم ومتاع اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوا اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمر ننكس في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللنا لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهدرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم ير الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحيي الذي أنشأ أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادرين على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وآل رحم الله من سورة المباركة الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Can I please request you all to say Fatiha for Marhum Muhammad Yusuf Dungarse, who passed away in Toronto, and all our Marhumin. Al-Fatiha.
شكرا. توجه زيارة. السلام عليك يا رسول الله. السلام عليك يا أمير المؤمنين. السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء سيدة نساء العالمين. السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله والأرواح التي حلت بفنائك وأنا ختم رحلك. عليكم جميعا سلام الله عبدا ما بكيت وبكي ليل والنهار، ولا جعل الله آخر أحد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. سيدي ومولاي الفضل العباس وأختك زينب جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا شمس الشموس وأنيس النفوس أيها المدفون بأرض توس الرزا المجتبى مولانا ومولى الكونين السلطان أبو الحسن مولانا علي بن موسى الرزا. كن شفيعنا وشفيع والدينا في يوم الجزاء. وفقنا الله لزيارتك يا مولا ورزقنا الله شفاعتك في الدنيا والآخرة. والصلاة والسلام على آبائك الطاهرين وابنائك المعصومين وعلى أختك فاطمة معصومة جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. السلام عليك يا حجة الله يا ابن الحسن يا صاحب الزمان. السلام عليك يا عين الله في خلقي. السلام عليك يا صراط الله. السلام عليك يا سفينة النجاة. فأعزفني وأجرني صلواتك وعلى أهل بيتك الطيبين الطاهرين. عجل الله لك ما وعدك من النصر وزهول الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وكائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.